Hello, sixth graders, and welcome to your math lesson for today. For today, you will need your math resource binder, your 5A workbook, and paper, pencil. So if you need to pause and go get those things, please do so, and then come on back. So I've been saying, like a broken record lately, that we're doing these practice problems, right? Which will help us eventually when we get to our next quarterly exam, our next DDI. So for today, what's going to happen actually is I will kind of walk you through how to solve a version of these problems. So you can just watch and maybe work along with me, and then I'm going to give you a chance to do it on your own. So this again would be something that you would see on an upcoming quarterly test, okay? So the instructions here say, sorry, I'm trying to adjust you. Correctly place the parentheses to make the equation true, okay? So what we're kind of considering, I'm going to write on this a little bit, would be where might the parentheses go? Might they go here? Maybe, okay. Or might they go here? Maybe. Or here? Or here, right? So there's some options, but the question is not just like, let's put the parentheses in a random place and see how it goes. Well, that's kind of how we're going to solve it, but it's not just like put them down and have it be good. What's going to happen is that we want to kind of systematically go through and see how it works. So again, you can kind of just watch for now, but let's just try. What if we tried it at the start of our equation and then we went ahead and solved it? So parentheses we'd start with first. 12 plus 8 is 20. And then we'd copy the rest of the problem. And also this is kind of the question. Does this equal 32? Okay. Next we go division left to right. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. As I'm kind of looking, fifth graders, I'm already thinking this is not going to equal 32, right? Because if we do 10 times 7, that's 70, minus 8, that's not going to be anywhere near to 32. In fact, it's 62. So we can now say, that was not the correct place to put these parentheses. So let's try again. Remember, it's 12 minus 8. No, 12 plus 8, that's what it was, okay? Okay, so let's try. Let's be very systematic. Let's move over and try. What if it were here? So now we underline 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then copy. Remember, the next thing we do is multiplication. So 4 times 7 is 28. And then we copy. 28 plus 12. So I'm going to take this 2 and move it over, and we get 30. So then 30 plus 10 is 40. Ooh, this is looking good, fifth graders. 40 minus 8 is 32. So we see 32, 32. This is the correct place to put the parentheses, is in this 8 divided by 2, okay? It's possible, fifth graders, that we would have tried this and that wouldn't work, so then we have to move the parentheses over here and that wouldn't work, and then to the end, right? We might have to do it multiple times. You also could potentially get started on a problem and realize it's asking you to divide in a way that, isn't possible. So then you're like, well, that can't be correct, or maybe subtract in a way that isn't currently possible according to what we know. So what I want you to do is to do what I just did here. The question is, where do I correctly place the parentheses in order to make this equation true? So go ahead and pause, give it a shot, and then come on back and see how you did. So if you followed my guidelines, we would start really systematically, right? Starting that first spot. Okay, so we start with addition. 18 plus 9, we should have gotten 27 when we added those. And then we copy the problem. Oh my goodness. We're missing an important detail. The question being equals 35. Now you can try it. Oh boy, I'm sorry, fifth graders. What a day. Okay. So now hopefully you paused and then tried again with all the information necessary. Okay, so now we go 27 divided by 3, which is 9, and we recopy. 9 times 4 is 36. 36 minus 1 is 35. So actually our first attempt was the correct attempt. Well, your first attempt. My first attempt was a failure because I forgot to give you what it equals. Okay, but this is how we're going to solve a problem like this on a quiz or a test. You're really just going to have to like give it a go and see how it goes. Okay, but again, you will very much see a problem like this on future quarterly tests or even just unit tests also. I might give you similar problems. So, fifth graders, I forgot to say, welcome back. You had a nice long break. I hope it was wonderful, restful, full of time with family, full of time doing the things that you love to do. I know that I very much enjoyed some time to rest and recuperate and be with my family. So, we are going to pick up right where we left off, though. We're going to be working with fractions and specifically with fraction word problems. I will tell you, fifth graders, I personally find fraction word problems to be fantastic. I love the way that they work out. I feel like it really highlights why doing word problems can be really useful in general. So I am excited to get started and working on some fraction word problems with you. The first thing we're going to do today is actually review our word problem steps. So if you can find this sheet in your math resource binder, you will be able to follow along and refresh your memory. So how do I solve a word problem? Remember that step 1 tells you to read the problem and then underline the question. Step 2, we write that answer statement with a blank in place for the answer. Step 3, we identify the who or what. Those are going to be the labels to our unit bars. Step 4, we go ahead and draw our unit bars depending on how many the problem needs. Step 5, at that point, we're going to reread the problem and then we're going to adjust the unit bars. So do we need to change their length at all? Do we need to chunk those unit bars? And we start to fill in the information that is provided to us. Step, I have to move a little bit. 6 tells us to write the question mark for the part that is unknown that we're trying to figure out. 7 tells us to work on our computation, and then 8, we fill in our answer. We should double check that it makes sense. We always want to make sure that whatever answer we've written down actually will work, okay? So with this review in mind, fifth graders, what I want you to make sure that you find is this sheet, Fraction Word Problems Day 1. We're going to be working through some fraction word problems together. This is going to set you up for your practice work and on to your homework as well. Okay, so this should be in your math resource binder or wherever you put the materials that you picked up when you came for your second materials pickup. And we're going to get into it. So remember, step 1 tells us to read the problem. 4/5 of the students in a class had brown hair. The rest had blonde hair. 16 students had brown hair. How many students had blonde hair? So we read the problem and then underline our question. Step 1. Step 2 tells us to write our answer statement. So we would say blank students had blonde hair. Now we look at who or what this problem is about. This is a problem about students, or if you wanted to get more specific, you could say students' hair, but we're talking about students and their hair. Maybe we should say students' hair, so we don't think we're talking about blonde students. Okay, so now step 4 tells us to draw the unit bar. We're going to do just one unit bar. This is how fractions will play out for this one, okay? And now we can go back and chunk. So as we look at our fraction, we're talking about what as our fraction here? We're talking about fifths, right? Fifths. So we want to divide our unit bar into 5 relatively even chunks. That one got a little bigger. See, I'm learning. I used a pencil this time, so I'm being more prudent. 6. Okay. Now we can go back and add. 4/5 of the students had brown hair. So 1, 2, 3, 4/5 of the students had brown hair. The rest had blonde hair. We're also told that 16 of these students had brown hair. Another option, you maybe could have put like BR in each of those. That would have worked inside the box. How many students had blonde hair? So where does our question mark go? Yeah, here, or you could have done a bracket below. But we're trying to figure out the number of blonde students, okay? So as is going to be the case for a lot of our fraction problems, we're going to solve with a division problem followed by a multiplication problem, okay? So looking at our picture, what is our known amount? Yeah, we have 16. So we're going to do a division problem involving 16. 16 divided by what? 1, 2, 3, 4. 16 divided by 4, which is 4. That tells us that each of these boxes is equal to 4. And so now I said we do a multiplication problem, but as it turns out, our multiplication problem would be 4 times 1 because we just have one box. So how many students had blonde hair? 4 students had blonde hair. Excellent. Okay, we're going to go on to number 2. We're going to follow the same process, the same steps. Actually, and what I'd like you to do at this point, 5th graders, is to pause and try number 2 on your own. It is just like the one we did with different numbers though. So pause, try number 2, and come on back and see how you did. So we read the problem. 1/3 of the cookies in the display were chocolate chip. The rest were oatmeal raisin. 48 cookies were chocolate chip. How many cookies were there all together? I slightly changed it on you, but this word all together there, right? That means the total. Okay, so we write our answer statement. There were blank cookies all together. Who or what is this problem about? We label our picture with cookies. Then we draw our unit bar. How are we going to chunk our unit bar? Looking at our denominator here, we should have broken it into thirds. Okay. 1/3 of the cookies were chocolate chip. The rest were oatmeal raisin. Now, you might have labeled it differently. You might have done it like I did up above with brackets. That's fine. Just as long as we're showing that 1/3 of the cookies were chocolate chip and the rest were oatmeal raisin. Next, we're told that 48 cookies were chocolate chip. So this is 48. How many cookies were there all together? So our question mark should be around the whole thing. So if one of these boxes is 48 and we're trying to find out all of these boxes, we need to multiply 48 by 3. So this is maybe a little bit different, but not too much. It was actually more simple than the one we did before. So we do our multiplication, 24. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. How many cookies are there all together? 144. How did we do? I set you loose maybe a little bit early, but hopefully you were able to navigate that. Okay, next up, we have number 3. 3/4 of the students were right-handed. The rest were left-handed. 8 students were left-handed. How many students were right-handed? This is, again, pretty similar to number 1, okay? So we start by underlining our question and writing our answer statement. Blank students were right-handed. Good. Who or what? This is, again, a who or what about students. We draw our unit bar. And then we figure out, what are we going to chunk this as? Look at our fraction. What are we chunking it into? Yeah, we should get it into 4 equal chunks, or pretty equal chunks. And now we let the problem tell us what to do. 3/4 of the students were right-handed. So 1, 2, 3 were right-handed. The rest were left-handed. 8 students were left-handed. So I find left-handed 8. And remember, these are equal boxes, so that means all of these are equal to 8. How many students were right-handed? So now we look at our problem. Since we know what one box equals already, we can jump right into the multiplication step. So we're multiplying 8 by what? Look at our question mark. By what? That's right, by 3. 8 times 3 is 24, which tells us that 24 students were right-handed. How are we doing, 5th graders? Are we hanging in with these? Let's try number 4. 5/8 of the animals at the zoo couldn't fly. The rest of the animals could fly. There were 64 animals altogether. That word altogether again, meaning total. How many animals could fly? So we underline our question and write our answer statement. Blank animals could fly. Who or what is this problem about? It's about animals. We draw our unit bar. What are we going to chunk it into? We should have 8 equal chunks because our denominator here tells us it's 8ths. Now we go back to the problem and let it walk us through how to label. 5/8 of the animals at the zoo couldn't fly. 5/8 can't fly, so we have 8ths in our chunk. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 can't fly. The rest can. There were 64 animals altogether. So where do we put that information if there's 64 animals altogether? Yeah, that's got to be this whole thing, 64 animals altogether. How many can fly or could fly? So I'm going to just add a question mark there. That's the part that we're trying to figure out. So this is going to be a division problem and a multiplication problem. That's how we're going to solve this, with a division problem and a multiplication problem. So we look at our known amount. Our known amount here is 64. And we need to divide in order to find out what each box is. So what do we divide by? If we know what 8 boxes are and we want to find out what one box is, how do we do that? Yep, we have to divide by 8. So 64 divided by 8 is 8, which means that each of these boxes is equal to 8. Now we have a multiplication problem. 8 times what? We have to look to our question mark and let it tell us what we're multiplying by. What are we multiplying by here? That's right, we're multiplying by 3. 8 times 3 is 24, and guess what? That is our answer. 24 animals could fly. All right, 5th graders, we're not done yet. We're getting there, but we are not done. There is a backside with some more problems. And again, these are going to help us set up our success for our homework and our practice work. So we keep going. Number 5, 1/4 of the teams in a tournament had human mascots. The rest had animal mascots. There were 16 teams altogether. How many teams had human mascots? 5th graders, I would like you to pause and try this one on your own. Come on back and see how you did. So our answer statement, I shouldn't have said there. Well, I could have said there, I guess. I'm going to change this to blank teams had human mascots. Okay? Who or what is this about? Our label would be teams or something like that. We draw our unit bar. We break them into what? Yeah, into fourths. Good. 1/4 of the teams had human mascots. The rest had animal mascots. There were 16 teams all together. That word again, all together, which means all in total, all the teams. How many had human mascots? So this would be our question mark here. So to solve this, we had to do a division problem. 16 divided by 4, because there are 4 boxes, which equals 4. That means there's 4 in each box. Now we look to our question mark to figure out what we need to multiply by. Our question mark is around 1 box, so all we have to do is multiply by 1, which tells us how many? 4 teams had human mascots. How did you do? Hopefully you got it. But you're going to get another chance here. Number 6, 2/3 of the pizzas had red sauce. The rest had white sauce. 24 pizzas had red sauce. How many pizzas had white sauce? Again, 5th graders, go ahead and pause, try it, come on back and see how you did. So we underline the question and write our answer statement. Blank pizzas had white sauce. Who or what? Our label would be pizzas. We draw our unit bar. We chunk it into thirds because we're talking about thirds here. 2 of the thirds had red sauce. The rest had white sauce. We're then told 24 pizzas had red sauce, so 24 goes here. How many pizzas had white sauce? So here goes our question mark. Now we get into computing our answer. So we have 24 divided by 2, which equals 12, which means all of these are 12. And again, what would be our multiplication problem here? We'd be multiplying by 1. So 12 times 1, which tells us that our answer is 12 pizzas had white sauce. Okay, let's try number 7. Number 7, 1/6 of the movies playing at a theater were animated. The rest were not. There were 15 movies that were not animated. How many movies were playing at the theater altogether? Again, I'd like you to pause, give it a try, come on back and see how you did. So our answer statement, blank movies were playing at the theater all together. Who or what is this problem about? Movies. Our label would be movies. We draw our unit bar. What are we going to chunk that unit bar into? You should have done 6 chunks. 1/6 of the movies were animated. The rest were not animated. We're told that there were 15 movies that were not animated. And the question is, hopefully you were paying attention, this word all together. How many movies? I'm adding my question mark up off to the side or on top of everything. How many movies altogether? That means it should cover the whole thing. So this time we really are going to have to do our division and then our multiplication problem. So we always start when it comes to that division with our known number, which is 15. The boxes tell us what to divide by. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, which means all of these boxes are equal to 3. It also means we're going to multiply 3 by something to get our answer. Look at our question mark. What are we multiplying 3 by? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is 18. So how many movies were playing at the theater altogether? 18 movies all together. All right, 5th graders, we are going to stop there. I know that there is a number 8, but number 8 has a typo in it and makes it unsolvable. That 32 probably should have been a 33 in order to make this work, but so be it. So we did 7 practice problems together. Again, if we're talking about like checkpoints or these points where you're kind of figuring out how am I doing, you should have a good feel. Like, did that go well or do I really not understand what she's talking about? And if you're in the second category, then this is your chance to reach out, right? Come to office hours, ask for help. There's tons of opportunities. If you're feeling good about how this just went, you're going to do your practice problems. Your practice problems are in your workbook on pages 72 through 73, but you're only going to do numbers 1, 2, and 3. Do not do any more beyond that. Just 1, 2, and 3, okay? don't do number 4. So you're going to complete those. Now you're going to see that 1 and 2, they sort of provided the picture for you. So for 1 and 2, you don't have to draw your unit bars, but you do need to do your answer statement and work out your solutions. Number 3, they have none of it for you. So now number 3, you have to do it all on your own. Follow all those word problem steps, okay? Again, those are your practice problems. So when you're done with the practice problems, that's when you check the key, see how you did. If your practice problems don't go well, then again, that's your moment to come seek out help from any of the places where you can have math help throughout the course of the day, okay? Once you feel good, you've gotten everything set and ready to go, your homework is going to be an attached document called Fraction Word Problems Homework Number 1, okay? It's going to relate a lot to what you've already done today. Solve it on any piece of paper. You do not need to print it, okay? You can just solve it. You can look at your computer or whatever device you're using and just work on your solutions on any piece of paper that you've got, and then submit a picture of the work, okay? If you have questions, if you need help, let me know, 5th graders. Good luck.